again. Just filling up the kettle. Now, I'm sorry it's been quite a while since you last heard from me, but I've been quite busy. I've in fact moved back to my place in Bethnal Green in East London. I've left my family home after staying an unexpected 4 months there. So you should hear that the kettle is slightly different. This one I actually prefer because it isn't too electronic. It's just got that very satisfying click down on the lever, and you'll also hear some other sounds around the place, and that's because I'm in the city, so you'll hear probably a car passing by, or a housemate walking around, or watching a bit of TV, and there's going to be a nice kind of atmosphere and sound around that will be different, but I'm quite excited for it. So things are going to be sounding slightly different, but this episode I'm going to dedicate to the family home I just left. It was such a special few months, and I have lots of lovely recordings that I want to share with you and talk about. Now, the first one you can hear is actually a recording of my dad sleeping. You can hear him breathe in and out again. So that's one of the sounds that I recorded, very relaxing, and I'm glad I caught my father while he was having a nap. It wasn't too hard at all. That's a very nice pop, did you hear that? And I've just got my housemates chatting in the other room, as you may be able to hear. But of course the jazz track is still here, so not too much has changed. Right, so we're now going to make the tea. So, got some old tea bags in there, so better clear that out. Pop it in the bin. There we go. Oh, bit of tea left in the sink. Right. Wash it out with a bit of hot water. Pour it out. Great. So, pop the tea bags in. Lovely Yorkshire tea. Brilliant. And now we pour in the water. So, we should start our tea review, I guess. Question 1. Which North American soft drink is traditionally made from the sassafras tree? Question 2. What country gained independence from the USSR, then led a successful basketball team at the Olympics in tie-dye kits? Question 3. What does USB mean? So, as I was saying earlier, I've moved back to my home in East London. So, over the last few weeks, I've moved my stuff over, I've had to clear out my room. I got to spend some really valuable time with my parents before I left, and it was really lovely. It seemed like an end of an era. Being back in your childhood home is something really magical, because I was there when I was growing up, but I was never really an adult. So, well, I wasn't an adult, I was technically a child when I lived there, hence childhood home. But to be able to have the excuse to live back in your parents' house when you're older for a period of time, it makes you reappreciate the upbringing that I had, and I was very fortunate of mine. I really love Barnet, the places I used to go to, up to the Barnet High Street and the spires. I did busking once there in the spires. I go on lovely walks. I would go to my rugby club, as I mentioned earlier. Did these wonderful walks as I took this microphone around. And to reflect on your life like that is really, really wonderful. And so I left feeling a tinge of sadness, but a tinge of hope, because I came to appreciate where I grew up, and that was really lovely. And I'm also very grateful that I'm able to move out of my own home. So on the last day, myself and my mum walked around, and as I'd mentioned before, I'd been volunteering for Good Neighbours High Barnet, where I'd been dropping off prescriptions and calling up people each week. And so I decided to visit some of the people who I did drop-offs to, or who I called, and it was so lovely, and it was great to introduce my mum, and I just wanted to say goodbye, really. For the people I call, I can still call them, which is lovely, because no matter where I am, I can still do that. But the people I'd drop prescriptions to, I may not see again, and I wanted to just give them a proper goodbye. One of the people that I ended up chatting to was a lady called Phyllis. Now, she is someone I used to drop prescriptions to every few weeks, and I'd have a lovely chat from her doorstep. And there was this beautiful coincidence that happened, where one time I was chatting to her and I was talking about the podcast, and I don't know how we got to the topic, but I got featured very kindly by 60 Plus Surfers, which is a website aimed for older people to surf the internet and has great links to other things online. And they did a feature for me, and they linked to my podcast, and I'm very thankful for that. And it turns out that Phyllis, the lady that I've been dropping prescriptions to over the weeks and months of lockdown, was a writer for it. She was a contributor, and she wrote for the retirement and hobby section. And I was like, Phyllis, I'm going to have to check this out. And I absolutely loved the article. It was really, really nicely written, and she was talking about different cultural things you can enjoy. So one thing she was talking about was the anniversary of the Mayflower, which was really interesting to learn. Also, coincidentally, my sister also wrote a play about the Mayflower, so it was all linking very nicely. And then she wrote about virtual tours you can go on galleries around the world. She talked about Frida Kahlo, all these great artists, and I do have a love for art, and to engage with someone who's such a different age than me, but to share a passion was really, really lovely. So I really recommend check out the retirement and hobbies section in 60plussurfers.co.uk, because Phyllis writes a great article and has some great cultural stuff. And it makes me realise so much of the articles that myself and people my age, amongst the social media days that we live in, we get so much rubbish, so much clickbait. But this wasn't trying to do that. This was fitting a purpose to let people know of other good things to do on the internet. And it was wonderful. There was nothing else trying to force you into buying something or to getting advertised to. It was just a really lovely, pure form of the internet. I thought that was brilliant. So I recommend to anyone, even if you're not over 60, go check it out, because it's actually a really good website. And a shout out to Phyllis anyway. There were some other things I got to do which was so lovely as I was going to leave my childhood home. One of them was to visit my best friend, who I've known since I was about 4 years old, Dylan. And I've got a recording of us going on a walk with his dogs, Webster and Rufus. Fantastic dogs. And you should be able to hear them sniffing, because I got the mic up close to them. They were quite curious. And R.I.P. to Marley, which was his previous dog, who as a kid grew up with Marley, and he always used to just nuzzle his his snout just between my legs and kind of just put it there. And I thought it was lovely because I never had a dog, but I always wanted one. And Marley would always recognise me as someone as part of the family whenever I got in the front door. And so it was always such a lovely welcoming. And also I was arriving to my mate's house, so I was always in a good mood. And even just walking around and chatting and knowing each other for so long, it's so beautiful to have that relationship. And again, it's made me appreciate that friendship and appreciate where I'm from. We should probably start our tea review answers. Just gotta get the milk. Can you notice the different sounds? Milk coming in. Lovely. Does it sound a bit different? Because I'm in a different room, different house. All slightly different. So the tea is nearly brewed, so I'll do the first answer. Which North American soft drink is traditionally made from the sassafras tree? The answer is root beer. Okay, I'm going to pour the tea. Lovely. For question 2. Question 2. What country gained independence from the USSR, then led a successful basketball team in the Olympics wearing tie-dye kits? The answer is Lithuania. I really like this question because it's based off a documentary I watched. I really recommend watching it. I think it's called the other Dream Team, because of course at that time there was the Dream Team that was from America. Anyway, it's a really fantastic documentary. I'm not even a massive fan of basketball, but I really enjoyed it, so I recommend giving it a watch. In question 3, what does USB mean? It means Universal Serial Bus. I did not know that for years. I've been saying USB, I've been using USB, but I didn't know what it meant. So well done anyone who got that answer right. But I quite like the idea of this bus carrying lots of data, carrying your files or anything you want to put into the computer, and it's just like a nice little bus that's, instead of passengers, it's just a bit of data. That's quite nice. Oh, that was a lovely cup of tea. Now I just want to say thank you to Kevin McLeod, Kai Engel and Esther Abrami. They provided some of the music for this episode, so thank you, and their links are below. And I've also had a lot of fun playing around with the guitar, but I think you can tell who's who. Now to finish off, I'm going to read a poem by U.A. Fanthorpe called My Brother's House. Now, I don't actually have a brother, but I feel like this poem encapsulates the kind of magic around a home as you look back and remember it, and the people that was in it, but also the very material of it has a certain power to it, which I think this poem does. And you should be able to hear in the background myself and my family having supper together and having a lovely time, and then you'll hear my journey away from that and back into the city for a new chapter. Now I hope you're well, be kind to yourself, and you'll hear from me soon. Stood like a fairy tale at the start of a wood. Vague fogs of bluebells absent-mindedly invested it in summer. Curdled dollops of snow flopped slowly in winter from invisible outstretched branches of fir trees. The wood was a real wood, and you could get lost in it. The trees had no names or numbers. Jays, foxes and squirrels lived there. Also an obelisk in an odd corner where nobody went. The road to my brother's house had an air of leading nowhere. Visitors retreated thinking of their back axles. Blackberries and 57 varieties of weeds had their eye on the garden. Every year they shriveled and flame, every day they returned unemphatic, not bothering to flaunt so easy a triumph. There was no garage to uphold suburban standards, only a shed where bicycles cowered among drips. Indoors, all doors were always open, or else jammed. Having a bath invited crowds, not just of spiders. Cats landed on chests with a thump and a yowl in mid-dream. Overheard the patter of tiny paws or dense whirring of wings. There were more humans around too than you quite expected, living furtive separate lives in damp rooms. Meals, haphazard and elaborate, happened when, abandoning hope, you had surrendered to bread and butter. Massed choirs sang solidly through the masses of Haydn. Shoppers returned from forays with 15 kinds of liver sausage and no sugar. When the family left, rats, rain and nettles took over instantly. I regret the passing of my brother's house. It was like living in Rome before the barbarians.